Hey YouTube, welcome back to Universe X, and today we've got a massive treat, a little bit of a chunky video, but you know what? Content sometimes needs to be thick for you to be able to get all the information necessary. So today we have a really cool guest on from Team Berzerk. He actually just pulled off a third place finish in the first regional for 2022 with the boy Red U7 Goku. Only loss in the entire tournament being to Marcel himself. So we're actually off to a great start. Excellent shout out to that team. Props up. Yesterday we actually had Hermit Style on here in the form of Zach E, and he actually got 13th place. So we got some stars in the crew. It's just cool to see my homies doing well at the start of the format. So what I want to say, as per usual, if you haven't been to the official Facebook group, get on that. That's where we get the announcements. That's where we get the official spoilers. The discussion group is where we actually go ham and discuss the things. We also have the Universe X Discord. I have a Facebook group. We have all these things that are the Reddit even, the Dragon Ball Super Card Game Reddit. That's all going to be in the description via links. At the same time, if you like the metal cards, TCGMetalZ is going crazy with the stuff they're putting out right now. They make cooler and cooler stuff all the time. We are doing a giveaway on the channel, but just look at the art for that Zamasu and the Goku Black, even though I said that in the reverse order. Great stuff, and because we're partnered, you can put in the code UNIX in the checkout to get 10% off your entire order. Now that being said, the last thing I want to put out is that if you like Universe X but you want to see me in different content, I play Dragon Ball games on UniXDB and I play other gacha games on UniX Gacha. Links are in the description of those. Check them out. Give a like, comment, subscribe if you like the content. There's a lot of stuff we're doing there. My Hero on the Gacha channel. It's just a fun time. So without further ado, we are going to just hop in and just kind of see what it is with this deck. Lots of people have been playing it, lots of people have been hyping it, lots of people have been in love with it, and so I'm very, very, very excited to just be able to show you guys the first gentleman to come this close to winning a tournament with it, and just kind of show you what it's all about. So let's jump into the deck profile. Alrighty then, so we are over to the deck sort of profile, but more like breakdown of the event, since the deck profile is actually over on the channel, which we're going to plug momentarily. So first and foremost, new guest on the channel. Not my first time working with this gentleman, but I am super happy to have him on Universe X. And yeah, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what happened this weekend.
Thanks a lot, Chris. My name is Beer. I am a player with Team Berzerk. I happen to be the player who came third yesterday in the Carta Magica regional. I just wanted to, share my experiences and everything that happened there, and yeah, make a great time.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. So we are going to do this a little bit differently. Since the deck profile is actually going to be up on his team's page, Team Berzerk. The link will be in the description. You guys should go over there, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, help them grow. I wanted to go just briefly through the deck list so you at least know what we're talking about here, but the real in-depth lines of play as well as breakdown on the ratios will be on their home channel. This video, he's gonna actually just kind of go into his matchups and talk about his experience, because this is the first actual placement, like top 4 placement of this deck. And actually, to be honest, I think it would have been like at minimum a second place finish if he had not run into the demon that is Marcel on the second to last round. Like, Marcel is a machine. He is a very tough opponent to face. So yeah, I guess we are good to go into the cards. So show me what you got, dude.
All right, so I'll go quickly through what my list was, just for the sake of the viewers. I had run 4 copies of the 17, Heeding the Call, 4 copies of the Gohan Ultimate Essence, 4 copies of the 17 SR, 4 copies of the Dual Attack Frieza, 4 copies of the Vegeta, the Deflect Crit, 4 of the Frieza Super Combo, 4 of the Goku Counterplay, 3 copies of the 8-drop Super Rare, the Ultra Mastery, 2 of the Kaioken, 2 of the Divine Presence. I went 1 new ruler. I had gone 2 Realm of Gods, 2 Imposing Presence, 4 After Image Technique. I had run 1 Koitsukai, 3 of the Resolve Renewed Vegeta, and then I ran a Spicy Unison package, which I'll talk about in a second because it actually came in pretty clutch with the whole deck, which was Jiren with the Videl combo, and then For the SCR, I had ran Gohanks because I did not pull the Vegeta. So, you know, you just ran the alternate option. And honestly, every single game where I played this, it ended up being useful. And the only game it did not win me was the game against Marcel. So it was absolutely clutch every single game. With regards to why I chosen Jiren, there's actually like a lot of reasons there. In my practice, I had found that the worst matchups were the ones that involved Sin, like Yellow Sin Shenron, Soul Striker, and King Piccolo, and of course Mill, but Mill is Mill. And in those situations, I found that running Jiren was far more effective because, for example, if they play their Kefla, you just negative 10. They're not going to kill you. And if they play it out and they don't have God Stealing in hand, you can take the risk. And when they play out the Kefla, you can just go ahead, counterplay with the Videl, neg 20, then neg 10, and you've like gotten rid of their threat right away. So it's really strong in that aspect. Against Sin, obviously, it's amazing as well. They play their duty like, okay, neg 10, neg 20, boom, that's a negative 30, and then you neg something else 20k. And then typically what I would do is I would hold till turn 3 for my Awaken, because then I would tap out 3 for Jiren. I'd swing with leader, do all the, you know, the on front side stuff. Then I would Awaken, on tap 1, draw 1, and I would leave 1 mana open for this Goku counter play. Because then what happens is when let's say your opponent plays a card via skill, you can counter window 1, you could play the Goku, and then counter window 2, you could play the Videl, and that's already like neg 35, and you can also do the auto on Jiren. All this at the same time, you can actually do it, which is like insane. You're gonna just you can kill anything with that. But then also,
oh my gosh,
yeah, right, it's crazy. But then also on top of that too, like you can always like, oh, the first card they play, you just neg it 15, and then you go this with this, and like if they try to bring out any like boss monster or anything sneaky, you just ruin it. But the biggest pressure that I found with Jiren was the fact that the moment you play it, everybody ignores your leader. And you're playing a red leader that can Awaken at 8 life, and I'm being fully serious here, other than like the matchup I lost, of course, almost every single game I played, I think except for one other match, I don't remember which, I was always at 4+ life. And there was one game where I got like pushed to 4 life, but the moment this hits the board, no one's touching your leader because they can't ignore Jiren at all. And I would laugh because if they're swinging to Jiren, I say, okay, you're wasting all your resources to kill this thing, and then next turn just be like, all right, here's Gohanks, and you just win. But the reason it's so good, honestly. But the thing too was really nice that I found was with this, because obviously you're always worried about floodgates like Robotic Repose or Oceanus, which is this deck's kryptonite. You can delay your kill turn with the super rare to turn 5 or turn 6. Because then what I would end up doing, if I could afford it and I knew it was a situation where it's possible, where it wouldn't like completely like make me die, I would tap out 4 on turn 4 for the Gohanks because it's a wall they can't get around. And then on my turn 5, I would play the big boy, and then I would swing with him. And then if they like tried to Oceanus or they would repose, I would just counterplay with this, and the attack's going through, and now they're in like the danger zone. Mm-hmm. Or I would use the energy for Koitsukai. Because the big thing with this deck is nothing is actually free. Other than New Ruler, your counterplay Videl, which you still have the Spirit Boost 1, and the 17, everything costs at least 1 mana, 2 mana, or 4 mana. So you have to like make sure what you do is like sequenced properly.
I dig it. And if I'm not mistaken, since you have the card in front of you and I do not want to get my binder, with Videl, her minus 20 isn't, it's not attached to her counter skill. It's like she comes into play and then she does it as an auto.
Yes, it's the like counter play is just to play her. Yeah, it's literally like charismatic. So the Spirit Boost 1 is on the auto. So it has to hit the board first, then you do the Spirit Boost 1, which is actually something I had misplayed on in the tournament. I had thought for some reason that I have the Spirit Boost 1 on the counter play, and someone had like counterplayed it with like I think a Super Kamehameha, and I had wasted a marker on Jiren, but that was actually my error. And she can only come out if you have a unison specified cost 3 or more. Which yet again, I'll be honest, going into the tournament, I did not realize it. I thought it was only with Jiren, but then I read it carefully. I'm like, wait a minute, I can still do this with Gohanks. So then like, it just made things even more like hard to get around.
That's definitely cool too, and also that means Videl gets around deflect, and you have interesting things like for people that may be watching, Yamcha, since its counter play is tied directly into its skill to -15. You can't hit things, of course, with deflect, but you also can't hit things that are hard casted. Like if they hard cast something and you try to Yamcha it, you can only hit what was on the board before that thing resolved. Whereas Videl's not gonna have that problem. They could tap 3 for something and you'll just be like, okay, cool, bet. Like Videl and hit that and something else on the board simply because it's not part of the counterplay to do the minusing. It's a very subtle but very, very, very strong.
Exactly. It's honestly like this combo is disgusting. And then the Jiren -3, ignoring Bear, neg 25k something. People just like waste so much on it. They don't want to deal with it. And it's like, please, keep swinging at this. This is my win con. Thank you.
Definitely dig.
Yeah, but yeah, that's like the deck itself, right? Like that's the numbers I had. So it's a 56 card deck. I've seen some people say 60 cards. I don't know. I personally, originally I was running it at 55, but because I found that I had struggled against those 3 matchups I'd outlined before, that I needed to have answers to it. So I had originally 2 Koitsukais, but I cut 1 to put 1 copy, and then I bumped up to 56 just to have 2 extra copies of the Realm of Gods, just to help in those matchups. And in the tournament, honestly, I only used this card like twice, but in those matchups, like I would proactively use it.
Yeah, how often did you face Sin?
I didn't face a single Sin.
There we go, because I can tell you right now, I too am playing red, and all I can say is that one of my roommates is just heavily maining Sin, and I main 3 of that card, and I side 1 only because Sin 9 is just so disgusting. If anything, it's like a pseudo super combo that you pay 1 for on the defense, but like just being able to be like, is that a Sin? Cool, turn my Unison sideways, and then just, you better block with it because this is the only chance you're gonna get. And then you just continue to move, like that just actually helps so much because that card is just the ruiner of fun play.
Exactly, this card's way too good. It can't be ignored. But yeah, the other thing I guess too was Koitsukai as a 1-of was kind of risky, but the 3 games where I did use it, it was useful all 3 of those games, and then the rest of the tournament I never needed to use it. So that's really all there is to it. Like you should probably run 2, but I didn't want to mess with my ratios right now. So I don't know if I can figure out a way to stay at 56 or 55 and have to, I would, but it's really tight. And the Vegeta 3 copies felt perfect. I felt like 2 would be too little and 4 is too much because you don't want to have too many non-U7 cards, but it's absolutely critical to have because there's way too many floodgates in the game now.
The Resolver News is a beast. But yeah, so I guess if you don't mind, I am now curious to know about your matchups and how you felt about it.
Sure. More than happy to do that. So the first game I had faced was actually against a friend of mine. He was playing a really interesting build. He was playing a Vegex mill deck. So the idea behind it is basically you stuff the deck full of every black negate possible, 4 copies of Oceanus, whatever name you, just every negate you can think of that black can play, he would just run it. And because Vegex can never mill himself out, he just stalls the game, plays the SS4 Gogeta thwarting the Empire, and just keeps playing it slow, doesn't swing your leader, only makes it where the swings with thwarting will, make them -2 your hand or minus your board, and he'd play the Bardock Unison and just keep drawing and just sit there and do nothing else really. You're just gonna lose the longer the game goes. I was honestly worried about that matchup, but because I had the Resolve renewed, this clutched out so many times in that matchup where I think at least once or twice I'd used it against his Oceanus, and he's like, "Oh, I guess I can't floodgate you," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go for game now."
That is kind of trifling. I'm not gonna front.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrifying list to face. And then for my second match, it was actually another Goku player. So his build was obviously different than mine. I don't think too many people I know there's a few people who ran Jiren, but he was running the Piccolo Jr. Yamcha combo, and he was running the Skillless package. So I'm not gonna call it bad because it isn't bad, but in my opinion, I feel like the Skillless package is waste of slots when I can put cards that do more things like the Vegetas or the Realm of Gods or Koitsukais. It just feels better. And the Piccolo Jr. with the Yamcha is never a bad combo, don't get me wrong, but because your leader can literally awake at 8 life, you don't really care too much about low to the ground strategies when like you can always neg stuff with like unisons, your cards neg stuff. Like they're not going to be able to maintain a board anyways, so you don't have to worry about low to the ground. So being able to deal with like the bigger threats, I felt was more beneficial, and it paid off. At least in that matchup, it felt good. I'm pretty sure I used the Realm of the Gods in that matchup as well. And it all worked out, honestly. It was a pretty solid game.
Okay.
And it was actually funny too. His turn 4. So on my turn 4, I played the Gohanks on him, and then on his turn 4, because I had gone first, he had no choice but to play the Vegeta SCR. So he played the Vegeta SCR. I was at 5 life, and I counterplayed it with the Videl. So I negged him by like 20. So he was basically like a 20 dual triple, right?
Mm-hmm.
But because Gohanks was a neg 25 on his +1,
no.
he had no choice but to use the activate main right then and there to like get rid of my unison and crit 1 of my life. And I was like, okay, I'm at 4 life, you're tapped out. Next turn I just played the what do you call it, the Goku, and it was game.
That's destructive.
Yeah. So it was a solid game for me, but he played it well, honestly. And then the third matchup was against Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta Ramp. It's a fun deck. It's a great deck. I think it struggles against anything that mains Afterimage technique, because I went first, he went second. I had Afterimage. I basically had 2 Afterimage and an Imposing Presence like by turn 3. On his turn 1, I left the mana open. He swung at me. I'm like, Afterimage technique. He couldn't combo over it. Then on his turn 2, he swung again. I'm like, Afterimage technique. He couldn't combo over it. Then on his turn 3, he was awakened. He swung with leader. I'm like, Imposing Presence, minus 10k or leader every time you attack, minus 5k. And like he like comboed a card, and I'm like, all right, super combo. And he did not get to ramp once the whole match.
No, I mean, so, I 100% like SS4 can do some fun things, but I think it's absolutely abysmal versus Red. Like in Gen Con, I faced one, and I just knew it was like his least fun match of the day. Like he's like, okay, I'm gonna attack, and I'll put a little razzle dazzle on it. I was just like, okay, skillless challenger, we're going to pass. Okay, I'm gonna swing again. And I was like, okay, tap 1 Imposing Presence. He awakened. He's like, all right, I'm gonna swing again. Like later in the game, I was like, Imposing Presence, and I'll combo on it. He goes, lie on tap. I'm like, all right. He swings again. His leader's base 0. I'm like, okay, dude. Like
GG.
Red is just such a not good matchup for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I think I faced a few other SS4s this week, and none of them were able to beat me at all. Like, not even close. Which is unfortunate. Like, I actually played one today where the guy tried his best, and I was at 8 life like the whole game, except for like 1 turn where I let him get it 1 swing in. Like I was 7 life.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. If that deck doesn't get its main gimmick off, then it's just a very generic blue leader. And that's why I like never played it. Like, when I first saw it, I was like, this is amazing. Like Rise of the Super War is amazing. And then again, I keep telling this story, but my homie Justin was just like, oh, you're playing SS4 Vegeta? Cool. Turn 1 drop Broly, ball, 30k blocker. And I was just like, never again. Like, I didn't sleeve it up ever again.
Unfortunate, because it's such a fun deck. Honestly. And then my game 4, this was actually really cool, but I felt so bad for the guy because he like clearly got into the worst matchup possible. He was playing starter green Broly, but running the original set 6 chain.
Oh, that's vintage.
But think about it too. The guy got to round 4 undefeated with that, so he clearly was like, he was sniping people clearly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the matchup was so unfortunate, and especially for him. When I started playing DBS back in set 6, my best friend mained that Broly deck, and he gave me a nightmare during that period of time. So I've learned already. I already memorized. I have nightmares of what that deck does. So he did one misplay, I will admit, that kind of like messed up the whole match for him.
Mm-hmm.
He got a little greedy and swung with his 1-drop really early, and I just Imposing Presenced it, and he didn't have the 4-drop to go into the chain. And then he had to go through the chain, the alternate method, using that one that came in, I think it was Cross Spirits, where if it's removed, you go up the chain. I'm like, whatever, I'm going to neg it anyways. So we went up the chain like that, but like literally it was a 9-minute game, and I killed him turn 3. He on my turn 3, he couldn't do anything because he could basically KO one of my cards, went up the next card in the chain, KO'd one of my cards. I'm like, all right, and I just kept going, and he didn't have enough gas because he wasn't even able to resolve the leader's Sparking 7 because it was too early in the game.
That's only a little sad, I'm sure.
It's very unfortunate because I do like that deck. I think it's very fun, and I feel like it does have some potential against the what I'm gonna predict is gonna be the Invoker meta, because the 6-drop and the 8-drops permanent says they can't activate counter of 2 or more, I believe it is, right? And I don't think, I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure Invoker doesn't reduce the cost of those negates. It just makes it where you tap a blue-red instead. So I'm pretty sure they still are considered like 3 costs or whatever. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's how it works. So it's a cool little deck that could technically go around Invoker.
I dig it.
Yeah, unless I'm wrong. And then the next match was like, honestly, even though I won the match, it was like still the most stressful match the entire day, was against Janemba Mill.
Yep, people are very
My
polarized.
opponent played like a demon. I like playing Janemba Mill, so I'm a little guilty there, but that was the most terrifying matchup ever. Like, this guy was just spamming his deck full of those, like, the 1-mana 10Ks that draw, like, the cells and the Gokus. He was just spamming those, like, 59 negates in hand. And I'm sitting here like, okay, we got to do this. We just got to keep going through. And I ended up, like, winning with, like, 4 cards left in my deck. So it was, like, extremely close, of course. But, like, things that, like, when it comes to playing this deck versus Mill, because Mill is gonna be tough, right? And also there's different types of Mill, so this might actually be a little hefty topic here, but against generally against Mill, front side, resolve your leader ability twice at most. If you can awaken like by turn 2 without needing to use the ability a second time, perfect. If you have to bite the bullet, do it so that you can get your awaken condition and you're golden after that. And then from then on, only do the draw 1 on the backside ability. Do not do the mill 3. Just don't do it unless you're in a situation where it's like, oh, if I mill 3, I can get the Sparking 20 on the big boy to snipe out his cards. That's the only circumstance, and that's extremely risky. You have to map things out really, really carefully. But like, best advice is don't mill yourself. They'll do it for you. Just play it cool, play your dudes that do damage, and just keep going like that. Even with this, like the top 3 search, just fail to search. Just bottom deck those 3 if you want, or just fail to search, because this, like, it's look it up to the top 3, I'm pretty sure, right? So yeah, you get to look it up top 3, right? So just look at nothing. That way you don't even risk like adding more cards if you need to. Just play it very slow, very patiently, and you should hopefully be able to win. And if you don't, well, I mean, you're playing against Mill. Like, what are you gonna do? It's designed to stall, right? Like, it's a bad matchup. Really bad matchup. The Vegetas are obviously helpful, but only against Oceanus. Especially against Janemba Mill, like, half their stuff has deflect. If they play the battle cards, there's nothing you can really do. And then, like, yeah. So that was like the Janemba Mill. It was on stream too, and I was absolutely nervous after that match. It was crazy. Yeah, that was a nuts match. And then the match after that was against a blue-yellow Gotenks. It was not a bad match. I was able to win. My opponent actually ended up scooping, but I actually felt that if he didn't scoop, he probably could have won against me. But I mean, I'm not gonna say, hey, keep going, brother. The thing about the blue-yellow, and this is like how to deal with this Goku deck, is Senzu Bean your leader. The guy I was facing, he was aggressively using Senzu Bean against me to like pump up his basils, and he was using the double strike Abe and things like that. But realistically, you just want to use Bean defensively, because if you Bean defensively against UI, this guy's a 19k dual attack. I have to combo 1 card in hand. This is a 15k double. I have to combo 1 in hand. Leader's a 15. Got to combo 1 in hand. Only stuff like Divine Presence, the Vegeta, and the Super Rare, and like New Ruler, and like I guess whatever SCR you run and Jiren are the only things that can like technically swing at it. And if you double Bean it, like it's done. Like the turn's over. You're not going to be able to push through. So, like, if you face this deck and you are able to splash Bean, use it defensively. Don't use it offensively. It's not, unless you you can kill your opponent, don't do it. Just save it for defense.
I dig it.
Yeah. And even like when you're playing against a deck that is running Senzu Bean, don't swing first with your big boys unless like this one's okay because you want to rip out a card like a super combo or something. That's fine. But other than that, for like the first swing, always start small. Go for like your lower cost dudes. That way, once they sensu bean, you can just go right into your bigger dudes and not have to waste time comboing stuff that you don't need to. Because then now they're forced to combo more stuff.
All right.
But that's how I feel like running it against like the blue-yellow type decks. And then game 6 was against King Piccolo, piloted by Marcel Russell. That was a really crazy game. I lost. It was a great game. I'm not even like I can't even be angry or upset about it. It was like it was a great match, honestly. I had a blast. I was nervous as all heck. He piloted KP extremely well. Like I think it was like my turn 2, going to his turn 3, he got me to 2 life. Like nobody else did that all day. And then on my turn 3, I had no choice but to play this to reset the board state. And it actually did buy me a whole turn. And then I played Gohanks on my turn 4, which did buy me a whole nother turn. But he was able to close it out turn 5. I had, looking back at the match itself, I had done a few misplays in my opinion that, I mean, I still don't know what was in his hand at the time, but that pretty much potentially could have cost me the game. So basically what had happened was he had a token negate, like the negate blocker, but he passed his turn. So he had one of the testing out tokens. He had his piano on board, and he had his unison and his leader. He had, I don't know, he like did a bunch of swings. I was at 2 life. I let them through and I comboed them. And then he tried to play tambourine with the activate battle. I instantly videlled. I popped the tambourine, and I chose to pop the piano instead of popping the token. And this was actually a huge error because the turn, like on my turn when I was swinging into him, I saw him pick up the Pan SCR, and I had 2 battle cards on board, and he had basically 2 battle cards on board. Had I chosen the token instead, it technically would only have 3 battle cards on board, which means he wouldn't be able to play Pan out for free. Because I chose the piano, he just flipped down a life, and he was able to keep him alive. He had 2 open energy, and he had played out Pan. At that time, my Gohanks had already blocked, and I did not use his +1. So in my mind, when he swung with Pan, I'm like, uh-oh, he's gonna Champa me. I have to do the +1 and negate 25k, that way I can survive. He swung, he didn't Champa, but I still did the +1 already.
Yeah.
So he pushed for damage, I negated, I had 2 life as well, so I could have just taken the swing from Pan, and then after that he played Fighting Against Fate. I out-comboed one swing, couldn't out-combo the other, and that was game basically. So had I like hit the token, he would have to tap out energy to play Pan, which would have given me more comfort in my mind. And had I saved the +1, I could have popped the Fighting Against Fate, but that's like the only things I could have think of where I could have done better, and that's it. I still don't know what else was in his hand. Like he probably could have played some other stuff too. So I'm not going to say, oh, that would have won me the game. I don't know, but I do know.
Been cleaner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And had I survived that turn, I had 2 copies of this in hand. I'm sure if I got to my turn, I probably would be able to take the game, but I'm not like 1,000,000% sure because I still don't know what the heck was in his hand at the time. But like, it was a very close game. It was extremely fun game. Like I had a blast, and like it was like the first time in months where I've like played this just to wipe a board. So, you know, even though you rarely resolve this, when you do, it's blessed.
I got you.
Yeah, that was it was a crazy match though. Like full props to him. He absolute demon of a pilot, honestly. And then the last matchup was against Android 16. So the guy played as best as he could. This matchup is absolutely death to Android 16. Android 16 is actually one of my absolute favorite decks to play, but I knew the moment I saw this deck and I saw how it played, I knew the deck just cannot stand up because everything in the deck just negs all your 16s, 15Ks, 20Ks, 20. You just can't play the deck at all. Like nothing lives. And because negging power gets around the KO clause, it means even the revive blocker doesn't come back. So there really is not enough wiggle room for you to do anything threatening as 16. The only way as a 16 player I personally have won against this deck is to aggressively ramp with the Beautiful Scientist and then play the 17-18 8-drop super rare to like wipe out their hand and like clear the board. That's the only way I've been able to win that matchup as 16. So it was very unfortunate for the guy because it was to play to get it to like top 4. But I mean, I had to play at the game out, and as much as I hate beating one of my favorite decks, I had to do what I had to do. But yeah, that was those were all the matches I had.
Alrighty then. So, I guess tying up the video, I just want to ask you, first outing with this deck. I know you tested beforehand, but how do you feel? How did you feel playing this deck through your first event?
This deck feels amazing. I love this deck. It's a fantastic deck, and I think this will probably be the first deck where I'm gonna like try to max rarity foil everything, because yeah, this just feels amazing to play. It's very linear. It's very straightforward. Like your plays are very clear. Do this, do that, do this. Turn 1, 2, 3. But like, it just feels good to play, knowing that you have this cool mechanic of negging stuff, which in itself is a really fun mechanic that like red has, but red doesn't like use so much. So having it like in this deck as like a strong theme is so fantastic, honestly. Yeah, this deck is really good. And like even the hardest matchups aren't impossible. They're just hard. Like you can still do stuff.
Alright, I am deaf down. Well, I will say, it was a pleasure to have you on this channel for the first time. I think I've been on Team Berzerk twice, but it's good to have that opposite flow of content. Congratulations on the 3rd place finish and getting your Nats invite so early in the format that really doesn't matter what you do. You just play when you want to, like play what you want to. So like that's gotta feel good, dude.
It feels amazing. Thank you, I appreciate it. And like yeah, it feels especially amazing for me because I'd only recently joined the team like a few months ago, like after Nats. And like this is basically like my first regional with my team. And like I was the one among the team who actually like was the first to even get a Nats invite, and also I came top 4 like in a regional. Like it's crazy. Like I'm over the moon right now.
Hey yo, so yeah, that's great. That's literally awesome. So yeah, I just wanted to congratulate you one last time. I want everybody who is currently watching to know that you can find another video with more in-depth reasoning for the deck list and the way it's built on Team Berzerk. And yeah, thanks for joining. If you like the content, think about hitting that subscribe button, the notification button. We're going to be cranking out a lot of content, and yeah, we're going to keep it rolling. So I will see you guys the very next time you decide to join Universe X. Later.